Part 1. So, this is one of those stories that feels too messy to even put into words, but I've been sitting on it for weeks and I think I need to just throw it out there. If nothing else, maybe it'll help me organize the tornado that's been swirling in my brain. And yeah, if you've ever wondered what it's like to find out that both of your parents were cheating on each other at the same time, buckle up, because I promise this isn't the wholesome sitcom rerun it sounds like. Some quick context before I dive in. I, 27M, moved back into my parents' house earlier this year. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. I had a lease issue, and instead of couch surfing with randoms, my folks told me to crash at the family home. It was weird at first because I'd been living on my own since college, but I figured, hey, free food, laundry that doesn't cost $5 in quarters, and maybe some nostalgia. Spoiler, the nostalgia wore off real fast. For the first month or so, everything seemed normal. My mom, 52F, is the kind of person who keeps the house spotless and always has some casserole or soup simmering on the stove. My dad, 55M, works long hours and has always been a little gruff, but he's the type who'll show love by fixing your car without asking or sliding you a 24 gas money even though I drive a hybrid. They weren't lovey-dovey, but I figured after 30+ years of marriage, some of that fades. I thought they were solid. Keyword, thought. Then little cracks started to show. It began with my mom's phone. Normally she's an open book, she'll shove her phone in your face to show you some Facebook meme or random recipe. But I noticed she started carrying it everywhere. Into the bathroom, into the laundry room, even into the backyard to water her plants. At first I thought, okay, maybe she's just addicted to Candy Crush or texting her sisters. But then I overheard her giggling. Like, really giggling. And not the, haha my sister sent me a minion meme, giggle, this was, flirty. The kind of laugh you let out when someone tells you you're beautiful, not when you're comparing grocery coupons. Around the same time, my dad started coming home later than usual. Sometimes 10, even 11 at night. He'd mumble something about late meetings or traffic was a nightmare. But here's the thing, he works 20 minutes away. Unless he was stuck behind a horse and buggy on the highway, that excuse didn't add up. And when he did get home, sometimes he smelled like cologne. Not his cologne either. My dad's been a one bottle of Old Spice that lasts 3 years type of guy forever. This was something sharper, fresher, almost expensive. Definitely not Old Spice. At first, I thought maybe I was just paranoid. Maybe I was projecting my own issues, I had just gone through a messy breakup. But then I saw it with my own eyes. One Friday night, I came downstairs around 11 to grab a snack. The kitchen lights were off, but I saw my mom sitting at the dining table with her laptop. I thought she was just online shopping. But then she tilted the screen, and I caught a glimpse. She was on a Zoom call. With some guy. And she looked radiant. I don't know how else to describe it. She was twirling her hair, leaning close to the screen, laughing that same flirty giggle. And the guy? Shirtless. On camera. My stomach dropped through the floor. I remember just standing there in the dark kitchen, holding a box of Pop-Tarts, frozen like an idiot. Part of me wanted to slam the laptop shut and yell, "What the hell, Mom?" But another part of me, the bigger part, didn't want to believe it. I backed away quietly, went upstairs, and sat on my bed staring at the ceiling until 3 a.m., trying to convince myself it was some weird misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew. The very next night, my dad came home even later than usual. I was sitting in the living room with Netflix paused, pretending to be half asleep on the couch. The front door creaked open around 12:30, and in walks Dad. His shirt was wrinkled, and his hair, normally flat from his construction hat, was messy, like someone had been running their hands through it. He froze when he saw me. I mumbled something like, "Hey, long day," and he just muttered, "Yeah. Going to bed," before disappearing upstairs. His face was red, and I swear I smelled perfume that wasn't Mom's. I wish I could say I let it go. But curiosity eats at you like acid. Over the next week, I started paying closer attention. Mom was glued to her phone, sneaking out to run errands that somehow took 3 hours. Dad was working late almost every night. It felt like I was the only sane person in the house, like some twisted sitcom where the laugh track never kicks in. I even started keeping notes in my phone, like some half-baked detective, tracking times and excuses. Then came the night everything collided. And I mean collided. It was a Wednesday. Mom said she was going to her friend Carol's house for wine night. Dad said he had a late meeting. Around 9:30, I was scrolling Reddit in my room when I heard something outside. A car engine. I peeked through the blinds and saw my dad's truck parked at the curb, but he wasn't in it. That's when I spotted him, across the street, under the streetlight, leaning against the hood. And next to him? A woman I'd never seen before. Blonde, maybe mid-40s, laughing like they were teenagers. And then, plain as day, they kissed. Full on, passionate, no mistaking it kissed. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I was still processing what I saw when I heard the front door unlock. I panicked, thinking Dad was coming inside, but no, it was Mom. And she wasn't alone. Some guy, maybe late 30s, came in with her. He had his hand on the small of her back, and she was looking at him like he hung the moon. They went straight to the kitchen, whispering and laughing. I couldn't believe it. Both of them. At the same time. Under the same damn roof. I don't even know how I didn't get caught. I stayed completely still in my room, listening. I heard them open a bottle of wine. I heard Mom giggling, that same giggle from the Zoom call. Meanwhile, through my blinds, I could still see Dad across the street, making out with his mystery woman like a horny teenager. It felt like I had fallen into some nightmare parallel universe. Here's the part that messes with me the most: I didn't confront them. I couldn't. My brain just shut down. I sat there for hours, bouncing between rage, disgust, sadness, and this weird, hollow feeling I can't even name. I kept asking myself, which betrayal is worse? That they're both cheating? Or that they're both lying so easily, like it's second nature? The next morning, everything was back to normal. Mom made pancakes. Dad drank his coffee. They chatted about bills and grocery lists like nothing had happened. And I just sat there, staring at them, thinking, you're both strangers. I don't know either of you anymore. And they didn't notice a thing. My hands were literally shaking as I poured syrup on my plate, and they just talked about the price of milk like the world hadn't flipped upside down. Since then, I've been living in this weird double life. I know their secret. They don't know I know. And every day feels like a stage play where everyone is reading from a script except me. I don't know how long I can keep it in. Part of me wants to scream at them both in the middle of dinner. Part of me wants to pack up and leave without a word. And part of me wants to keep watching, because I feel like there's something bigger going on. Maybe they both know. Maybe this is some messed up unspoken arrangement. I don't know. All I know is, the story doesn't end here. I know this is already long, and there's so much more to say, like the first time I tried to test them, the close calls, the moment I realized they might even know about each other's affairs. Yeah, I'll get to that, and how it all exploded later. But I'll pause here, because I need to catch my breath and see if anyone even cares to read more. If you do, I'll post part 2. Trust me, it only gets crazier from here. Part 2. So after that night, the one where I literally watched both of my parents cheat at the exact same time, one inside the house and one outside, my brain basically fried. I couldn't look at them the same way. Breakfast conversations felt like some bizarre theater production where I was the only audience member who knew the whole plot twist. They'd ask me about work, about whether I was eating enough vegetables, and meanwhile I was screaming internally, "You're both cheating liars. Do you even hear yourselves?" At first, I thought maybe I was overreacting. People are complicated, right? Relationships are messy. Maybe there was some explanation that wasn't as catastrophic as it looked. But the more I observed, the more obvious it became. They weren't just dabbling in flirty texts or harmless crushes. They were full-on invested. Like, emotionally and physically. They were living double lives under the same roof, and I was the only one who knew both sides of the coin. And I did what any completely rational adult would do: I turned into a spy. I started noticing patterns. Mom's yoga nights suddenly lined up with Dad's late meetings. Her car wasn't in the driveway when his truck wasn't either. Sometimes they'd both come home within 15 minutes of each other, all smiles, smelling like other people's perfume and cologne. It was insane. It was like watching two rival magicians pull off tricks in the same room without realizing the other one was also performing. I even started testing them. For example, one night Mom came home late, clearly buzzed, hair a little messy. I casually asked, "So, how's Carol doing?" since Carol was supposedly her wine night buddy. Mom blinked for half a second, too long, before saying, "Oh, you know, same old Carol." I let it slide, but I wrote it down in my notes. Yes, I had a whole hidden note file titled Parental Shenanigans. A couple nights later, Dad came home at midnight and muttered something about a work emergency. I asked, "Oh yeah? Did Steve finally fix that truck?" Steve is one of his coworkers, I vaguely remembered. Dad just stared at me like I'd grown a second head and said, yeah, something like that." Boom. Caught again. They were both terrible liars, and yet somehow completely confident I wouldn't question it. The paranoia started eating me alive. Every vibration of Mom's phone made me twitch. Every time Dad left the house in clean jeans and a tucked-in shirt, I felt sick. And here's the wildest part, I started to wonder if they knew about each other. Like, what if this wasn't two secret affairs running in parallel, but some unspoken, mutually ignored arrangement? The idea kept me up at night. What if they were both fine with it, and I was the only one losing my mind? Then came the first near discovery. One Saturday afternoon, I was in the garage working on my bike when I heard Mom's phone buzz on the workbench. She had left it there while putting laundry in the dryer. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen. Big mistake. It was a notification from some guy named Daniel Redhart. The preview message read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Still taste the wine on your lips." I swear I almost dropped the wrench I was holding. I shouldn't have, but I tapped the screen. The thread was explicit. I won't traumatize you with details, but let's just say it left no room for doubt. Mom wasn't just chatting. This was full-blown affair territory. Pictures. Plans. Inside jokes. My stomach was in knots. Then I heard her footsteps. I barely had time to put the phone back exactly how she left it before she walked in. She smiled at me and said, "Don't forget to tighten the back wheel before you ride." I wanted to scream, "Tighten your moral compass," but I just nodded. That night, Dad's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. My curiosity got the better of me. The text was from Jess. Preview, same time next week? Last night was perfect, Redhart. My chest literally hurt. They were both in so deep, and somehow neither of them knew the other was doing the exact same thing. I kept this up for weeks, quietly collecting evidence like some jaded private investigator. And the deeper I dug, the worse it got. There were hotel receipts in Dad's glove compartment. There was lipstick on one of his undershirts, cliché, I know, but it actually happened. For Mom, I once found a movie stub for a theater across town tucked into her purse. On the same night she told me she was at yoga. I felt like I was drowning. And the worst part? I couldn't tell anyone. Who do you even go to with this kind of information? Hey, so, my parents are both cheating on each other at the same time. Wanna grab coffee and process that? I tried venting vaguely to a friend, but it sounded too surreal out loud. He thought I was exaggerating. I wasn't. Then came the night that changed everything. I had just gotten home from hanging out with a buddy. It was late, around 11:30. The house was dark. I figured my parents were asleep. But as I walked past the living room, I heard voices. Low, intense. I froze. Slowly, I peeked in. And what I saw nearly made me drop dead right there. Mom and Dad were sitting on opposite couches. And they were fighting. Not the normal bickering I grew up with, "Why didn't you take the trash out?" "Because you never do the dishes." This was nuclear level, heart of the marriage fighting. I caught bits and pieces. "Mom, you think I don't know where you go at night?" "Dad, don't start with me, Linda. You're not exactly innocent." "Mom, at least Daniel treats me like I matter." "Dad, yeah? Well, Jess doesn't nag me every damn day." I swear my soul left my body. They knew. They both knew. They weren't cluelessly sneaking around, they were fully aware of each other's affairs. And instead of ending things, instead of confronting the betrayal, they were just living like this. Pretending to be a family by day, then blowing up at each other at night. I backed away before they saw me, but my whole world tilted. Suddenly all the pieces fit, the weird date overlaps, the way they seemed almost calmer around each other sometimes, like they'd already burned through their anger behind closed doors. They weren't oblivious, they were complicit. That realization hit harder than the affairs themselves. They had built this whole fake version of reality, and I was just a prop in it. Their son, the clueless housemate, who they could lie to with ease because they were already lying to each other. And the scariest part? That fight in the living room didn't end with divorce threats. It ended with silence. They just stopped yelling. Then I heard the TV click on. Some cooking show filled the room, and they sat there like nothing happened. Like screaming about their lovers was just another Tuesday night chore. I barely slept that night. I kept running through the options in my head. Do I confront them? Do I move out and cut contact? Do I tell extended family? Every scenario felt like a grenade. But I knew one thing, I couldn't keep sitting on this secret forever. What I didn't know, and what I found out a week later, was that the situation was about to explode in a way none of us could have predicted. Part 3. Alright, here it is. The part where everything went from secret surveillance in my head to full-blown nuclear meltdown in real life. I've been dreading writing this because reliving it makes my chest tighten, but I promised an update, and if you've made it this far you deserve to know how it all blew up. So let's rewind to a week after I overheard my parents basically admitting to each other that they both knew about the affairs. I thought that was the peak. I thought nothing could top that. Oh, sweet summer child. The trigger came out of nowhere. Sunday afternoon, perfectly ordinary. I was in the kitchen making a grilled cheese, minding my own business. Mom was in the garden. Dad was supposedly in the garage. Totally normal suburban vibes. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it, expecting maybe a package. Nope. Standing there was a woman in her 40s, blonde, wearing sunglasses. My brain instantly screamed, that's her. That's Jess. Dad's affair partner. I froze, cheese slice in one hand, spatula in the other. She looked me up and down and said, "Is Mark home?" My dad's name. Before I could even process, Dad appeared behind me. His face went pale, like all the blood just evacuated. "Jess," he hissed. "What are you doing here?" And then, swear to God, Mom walked in from the backyard, wiping her hands on a gardening glove, and behind her was a man I didn't recognize at first. Tall, tan, younger than Dad. And my stomach dropped when she smiled at him and said, "Come on in, Daniel." Yep. You read that right. Both lovers. Same house. Same time. I was standing there like the world's unluckiest game show host introducing the contestants. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then it detonated. "Dad, what the hell is he doing here?" "Mom, oh, don't you dare. You brought her first." "Jess, you told me you were leaving her." "Daniel, wait, you're still married?" It was like a bad soap opera come to life. Voices overlapping, accusations flying, everyone talking at once. My grilled cheese was burning on the stove but I couldn't even move. I just stood there in shock as my parents' entire double lives collided in one horrific car crash of reality. At one point Mom actually shouted, "At least Daniel doesn't smell like motor oil and cheap whiskey," to which Dad fired back, "Better than pretending to be some yoga queen when you're just screwing around." Jess stormed toward the door, yelling at Dad that he'd lied to her for months. Daniel turned to Mom, betrayed, demanding, "You told me you were separated." And there I was, stuck in the middle, wondering if jumping out the window would be less painful. Finally, I snapped. I slammed my hand on the counter and yelled, "Enough." Everyone went dead quiet. For heads turned to me like I was the substitute teacher in detention. My voice shook, but I said, I know. I know about all of it. Weeks now. The sneaking out, the lies, the texts, the perfume. I've watched you both destroy everything and pretend nothing's happening. And guess what? You're not just cheating on each other. You're cheating on me. On the family. On everything you built. It was like dropping a grenade. Mom's face crumpled. Dad's jaw clenched. Jess muttered, "Oh my God," and bolted. Daniel just shook his head, muttered something in Spanish I didn't catch, and walked out. Suddenly it was just the three of us, the original cast of this twisted play. The next hour was the ugliest conversation I've ever had in my life. Yelling. Crying. Denials. Half-truths. Dad tried to claim his affair wasn't serious. Mom laughed bitterly and said, "Neither was mine, until you stopped seeing me as a person." Then they turned on me, "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" Like somehow I was the problem for not blowing the whistle earlier. I lost it. I told them both I had been drowning in their lies for weeks, that I'd lost all respect for them, that I couldn't believe the people who raised me were capable of this level of hypocrisy. At one point I shouted, "You raised me to believe in honesty, loyalty, family, and now you're both just strangers with wedding rings." That one hit. Mom started sobbing. Dad went silent, staring at the floor. I wish I could say it ended in a Hallmark moment. It didn't. By the end of that night, the word divorce was on the table. Papers weren't signed yet, but the decision was basically made. They slept in separate rooms. I didn't sleep at all. The house felt like a bomb site. The fallout over the next few weeks was brutal. Extended family got dragged in. My aunt called me crying, saying she couldn't believe her sister had done this. My grandparents looked at me like I'd betrayed them just by knowing. I had cousins texting me asking for gossip. I wanted to disappear. Eventually, Mom moved in with Daniel. Dad, last I checked, is still seeing Jess, though who knows how long that'll last. They're separated, divorce in progress, and I moved out because the air in that house was toxic. Here's the wild thing though, I don't even know who to be angry at anymore. Both of them shattered the family. Both of them lied. Both of them dragged me into it. And yet, part of me feels relief. Because the fake version of our family, the pancakes at breakfast, the "how was work" small talk, it was all rotten underneath. At least now the rot is out in the open. Do I forgive them? Not yet. Maybe not ever fully. But I'm trying. Therapy helps. Writing this out helps. And maybe some of you reading this will take one lesson from my mess: secrets rot everything they touch. Even if you think you're protecting your family, you're not. You're poisoning it quietly until one day the whole damn thing collapses. So yeah. That's how I discovered my parents were both cheating on each other, and how it all exploded in my face. If there's a moral, I guess it's that no family is as perfect as it looks from the outside. And sometimes, the people you think you know best are the ones hiding the biggest betrayals. I'm out of the house now. Building my own life. Trying to believe in love again. Some days I do. Some days I don't. But at least it's honest. At least it's mine.